Good evening and welcome. This is the November 9th, 2022 meeting of the Brighton Town Board, and I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor. I'm pleased to see the people that are here, and I know there are more of you watching us remotely tonight. We will be beginning the open forum portion of our meeting very shortly. That is the portion of the meeting when members of the public have the opportunity to share their comments or concerns with the town board. If you are watching us on YouTube or on our cable access channel, you'll have to log into Zoom in order to participate in the open forum remotely. There are detailed instructions for doing so on the town's webpage. Of course, that is townofbrighton.org. We do continue to make our meetings accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community with our ASL interpreters, Allie and Heather. Thank you both. And as a reminder, the agenda for tonight's meeting, as well as all of the materials that we will be relying on in making the decisions before us tonight, they're all available on the Town of Brighton webpage. They're also available on the table in the rear of the room. We'll start the meeting with a pledge to the flag. If you're able, I ask you to rise, please, and I'll ask Councilmember Wilt to lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We do have a proclamation this evening recognizing Native American Heritage Month, and I'll invite Ronnie and any or all of your family to join me up here at the podium, please. I will be presenting this proclamation to Ronalyn Pollock in just a moment. Ronnie, is a member of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation in Ontario, Canada. She has served as the Executive Director of the Native American Cultural Center, among many other avenues of service in the Indigenous community, which I will detail in greater length in just a moment. As we present this Town Board proclamation, we also publicly acknowledge that the town of Brighton is situated on the ancestral and traditional lands of the Onondaga tribe of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, whom we recognize and respect as the traditional custodians of this land throughout the generations. We pay our respects to the Onondaga elders, both past and present. The history, the culture, and the traditions of the Onondaga are worthy of our understanding and our study, and we praise those who keep those traditions alive. We recognize that the study of those traditions is of ongoing importance if we are to truly understand the history of our community and our nation, and we support efforts to ensure that we and future generations continue that study and that respect in a way that is honest and truthful, so that in the words of the great orator Sacagawea, also known as Red Jacket, we may always work together to brighten the chain of friendship. November is an opportunity for all of us to study and engage with Native American culture and heritage. This Sunday, the Memorial Art Gallery will be hosting a Native American Heritage Month event with a wide variety of indigenous arts, dance, and culture represented during the day. Throughout the year, we're also fortunate to have the Ganondagan State Historic Site so close to us in Victor. That is, of course, the site of what at one time was the largest Seneca town, or Onondaga town, and where today we can all learn more about the Haudenosaunee people and culture through events that are held there throughout the year. I will now read and present to Ronnie our proclamation recognizing Native American Heritage Month. Whereas the history and culture of Native Americans is long and rich, and their resiliency through the devastation of European colonization and centuries of broken treaties, dispossession of land, forced assimilation, and murder speak to their strength and endurance. And whereas the oldest valid treaty between Native Americans and the United States is the Canandaigua Treaty, which was signed on November 11th, 1794, between the United States and the Six Nations, or the Haudenosaunee, of the Iroquois Confederacy. And Treaty Day is therefore celebrated annually in Canandaigua. Whereas of the many contributions Native Americans have made to the United States, perhaps none is greater than the contribution of the Iroquois Confederacy, whose model of participatory democracy served as the foundation for the United States Constitution. And whereas today we celebrate Native American Heritage Month and honor Ronald Pollock, a member of the Mississaugas of the New Credit First Nation in Ontario, Canada, for her achievements in education about and advocacy for Indigenous peoples. Whereas Ronald has served as the executive director of the Native American Cultural Center, she teaches health and physical education at Monroe Community College, co-chairs Rochester's Indigenous Peoples Day Committee, and is a founder of the Indigenous Committee working with Common Ground Health on health-related Indigenous initiatives. And whereas it is through the work of people like Ronald Pollock that the past and present culture and heritage of Indigenous people are celebrated and a brighter future for Native Americans is formed. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and members of our Town Council do hereby proclaim November as Native American Heritage Month in the town of Brighton, and encourage our residents to not only share in the observance of this special month, but to learn about and celebrate the richness of Native American heritage here in the town of Brighton and in the greater Rochester area. And this proclamation is signed this 9th day of November, 2022, by myself as supervisor and by my colleagues on the town board, and I'm very happy to present it to you.
Thank you. Yeah, now I got it. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
If you'd like to say a few words, please.
Sure. Yawe, Sego Guego, Ronnie Pollock Yungyets, Mississauga the Credit First Nation, Six Nations the Grand River, Nide Wage Noon. Come up here. Ganyan Geha Ianishnabe Quaxnwagi Delota. Said hello everyone. My name is Ronnie Pollock. I am Mississauga the Credit First Nation. I am also Six Nations of the Grand River. I am Mohawk and Anishinaabe, and being Anishinaabe, we are part of the Eagle clan. So, as Town Supervisor Maley had indicated, my home nation being in Ontario, Canada, and of course, yes, that is my home nation. That is, where my roots are. However, I thought it's significant to share with all of you, I also have roots here in the town of Brighton. This is where I was actually born and raised. This is where I graduated high school from. This is where I met my husband in the 6th grade. Maybe just a few years ago. So the town of Brighton is significant and, special to us. My husband, too, he also works for the town of Brighton, has so for over 25 years. So this town is important to us. So I significantly appreciate this recognition. It does hold special meaning and value, but I would be remiss if I were to stand up here and accept this just for myself. In our culture, we don't do anything singularly. We don't do anything in silos. We don't do anything that draws attention just to the self. So I'm happy and honored to accept this, but I also accept this not only on behalf of myself, but also the Indigenous Peoples Day Committee. I co-chair that committee. We recently received a unanimous vote from the City Council of the City of Rochester with full mayoral support to recognize the first Monday of October as Indigenous Peoples Day and Indigenous Peoples Day only. And it's, I mean, the first of the major 5 cities throughout the entire state to do so. So I think it's pretty special and unique, you know, that we're living in this area, even though, you know, Brighton is just outside of, obviously, the parameters of the City of Rochester. I think we still do hold that, you know, unique connection. And camaraderie, if you will. So the many things I've been involved in on behalf of my people, most of them I haven't significantly or essentially gone out looking for. They've kind of found me. And I feel like it's my ancestors, you know, that bring these to me. And I can honestly say I wouldn't be able to live with myself if presented with these opportunities, I just kind of took a back seat and I'm like, no, someone else can do that, you know, or no, it's not that important. It is, because not only the work that I've done with my co-conspirators, I guess I could say, as you know, my Indigenous brothers and sisters, but also our allies too. This is significant because it brings recognition. And I think that's something that's so important in today's day and age, because for far too long we've been invisible. I mean, all you have to do is sometimes look at our history lessons to see the erasure that's happened and the significant factor of invisibility. So opportunities like this and recognition like this brings visibility. And also, too, my ancestors, my mom and my grandmother, I'm very proud to be able to be here tonight, but also in the other capacities I serve too, helping, you know, pave the way for recognition and advancement and health improvement amongst Indigenous. I do it because I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors, because I stand on the shoulders of my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother was a residential school survivor. She was at the Mush Hole, which is the Mohawk Institute, for 10 to 11 years, having escaped many times. She was a strong, strong, strong Mohawk woman. My mom, she was disenfranchised for over 20 years. So again, those are some of the reasons why I do what I do, and I do it with passion, you know, because again, given these opportunities, I could never just, you know, kind of stand back and say, oh, no, this isn't for me, you know, well, it's not that big of a deal. It is a big deal. So this is a big deal, and I accept it with humble gratitude. I say Nyawe Goa. So in Mohawk, that's big thank you. Not just on behalf of myself, but all of my Indigenous brothers and sisters throughout the entire Haudenosaunee Confederacy, but also throughout all of Turtle Island as well. So thank you for your recognition, your willingness to kind of broach this topic and bring visibility where invisibility has existed for far too long. So. Yahweh, do you want to say anything?
Thank you so much. We all have a lot to learn, long ways to go. I'm proud that the town of Brighton has also recognized for several years now Indigenous Peoples Day, and only Indigenous Peoples Day, and we do respect and honor you, and also honor and respect the fact that your daughter is already standing on your shoulders and will continue that great legacy. So, now, thank you. you're certainly welcome to stay, but don't feel that you have to. We will now begin the open forum portion of our meeting. We hold that open forum at the start of every town board meeting. I would note that if anybody is either here or is watching us remotely and is interested in speaking on the proposed parking restrictions, the proposed local law relating to parking restrictions on Schilling Lane, I encourage you to wait until that public hearing is called so your comments can be included in the legal record of that hearing. In either case, if you are here in person, please raise your hand so we can recognize you. If you're participating in the meeting remotely and you wish to speak during the open forum or during the public hearing, again, as I mentioned before, you must first join the meeting on Zoom, following the instructions that are on the town's webpage. You'll be admitted from the Zoom waiting room by the host if you raise your hand to speak on Zoom. I ask all speakers, whether you're speaking in person or remotely, to please state your name and address. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and I will give you a 30-second warning before your time expires. Our goal here tonight and during the open forum at every town board meeting is to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with the board and for us to be able to listen to your words. Therefore, please direct your remarks to the town board and not to the room or other speakers. Please refrain from personal attacks and from outbursts of any kind during the open forum, out of respect for the speakers and out of respect for the time of everybody that's here this evening. So the open forum portion of the meeting is now open. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board during the open forum? Please, if you'd come up to the podium and share with us your name and address, if you would.
Okay. I am going to ask if I can just be concerned citizen tonight.
Yes, you may.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I watched the previous town council meeting on October 26th, and during that, a man pled for help for his family regarding the complaints that they have had about video images taken of their daughter by a teacher that they've been complaining about this, really screaming from the rooftops about since March, actually late February of last year, early March. When they were here, basically the father's pleas were dismissed, and there was very little empathy shown to him. Then, the next morning, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, puts out a press release about a Brighton teacher being arrested for sharing pornographic video images found on his electronic devices. The DOJ described the video images of this male teacher as it appears that he surreptitiously recorded and photographed female students in his classroom. And his names the teacher again and says he also appears to have secretly recorded minors and adults in public places. And then it goes on to say that, other like thousands of images and things were found on his devices. So the Brighton Central School District also described the images in this way. We learned that while several students were carrying out their normal activities in his classroom, there were times when this teacher recorded them without their knowledge. These recordings are not of students engaged in anything inappropriate and that they were fully clothed, but it was voyeuristic type of pornography. So myself and others in the community have seen videos that this family, at least one video, we know there are others out there, but this one video that this teacher took of this family's daughter, and it's the very similar description of what this other teacher was arrested for, but this teacher who took the videos is a female. And we tend to give deference in society to, a woman doing certain type of pornographic behavior, capturing images, videoing, but not males. I mean, we scrutinize males more than we scrutinize females. So We saw the video, and again, the child is literally doing nothing. She's innocent, and the teacher is aiming up literally like under the table, zooming in under the table towards his child's private parts. The video is only 7 seconds. And the parents have been very concerned, as any parent would be, about a teacher, especially when they have an opt-out for photography in the school already before all of this happened from the beginning of the year. And the teacher's aiming up at their private parts under a table. And so when this teacher was asked why they had these videos, and she gave this allegation on a child. And for whatever reason, the school district and the Brighton Police Department took the word of a teacher with questionable videos on her cell phone camera.
30 seconds, please.
Over an 8-year-old child who said, "I'm safe," repeatedly said she's safe and happy at home. And so this begs that with the similar type of pornography that an outside investigation needs to happen. Because consequently, if we can say that one teacher does something and they can be arrested, but this other teacher never gets an investigation, there's something wrong there. And we have to be honest and fair with everybody that comes before us, whether we find them, we just have to be honest and behave with all the residents.
Time, please. Thank you very much. If you've got written comments you'd like to submit, you can do that as well. Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board during the open forum, either in person or remotely? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Next, we have a public hearing on the proposed local law prohibiting parking on Shilling Lane along both sides of the traffic circle at the intersection with Havens Road and along the cul-de-sac at the south end of Shilling Lane. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given on this matter?
Yes. Sorry, one moment. Screens. Sorry, I changed folders and it unselected itself again. I believe it was the October 26th edition of the Daily Record.
Thank you. Legal notice having been given, I declare this public hearing on this proposed local law to be open. Ken or Mike, anything you'd like to say before we?
Just real quick, Supervisor. I mean, we've discussed this many times at the Public Works Committee. We've had pictures of cars parking not around the cul-de-sac only, but also on the cul-de-sac. Cul-de-sacs are not designed for that. Feel that it's appropriate to post that as no parking, the cul-de-sac at the southern end of Shilling Lane. We also are concerned that once that's posted, the cars that are parking in the middle of the turnaround will move to the circle at the end of Havens. So we're also requesting that that be posted as no parking.
Thank you. Is there anyone, I don't see anyone in the audience, but is there anyone remotely that would like to address the town board on this matter, on this public hearing on the proposed local law entitled Shilling Lane Parking Restrictions Local Law? Hearing none, I declare this public hearing to be closed, and I would ask for a motion, please, Christine.
Certainly. On the matter regarding prohibition of parking on Shilling Lane, both
on both sides of the road along the traffic circle at the intersection with Havens Road and along the cul-de-sac at the south end of Schilling Lane. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
And if you would just also add a reference to the Schilling Lane parking restrictions, local law.
It's in the resolution.
Is it? Oh,
Supervisor.
okay, all right. Can I have a second? Thank you, Chris. Discussion by the board. As Mike indicated, this has been discussed in committee, and we did hear from a resident about this proposal. Bless you.
Thank you.
Hearing no discussion, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner? Aye. Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Can I have a motion to receive and file communication?
So moved?
Second.
Two items of communication here tonight. One is one of those letters we always are disappointed to get, but it's a situation where we understand that Jeff Frisch, town planner, will be resigning. He's relocating to the Boston area, and we wish Jeff the very, very best as he does that, and we'll miss him and the great work he's done. Mike, I don't know if there's anything you want to add?
Pretty much says it all. Jeff has become a real valued member of our team. He will be missed, but he believes this is a better career opportunity for himself, so he will be missed.
We also have communication from the Henrietta Fire District, which of course provides, is the vehicle that provides fire service through the Henrietta Fire Department in West Brighton. Communication dated October 18th, 2022, concerning their 2023 adopted budget. We have a motion and a second. Any further comment on either of those items? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Committee reports. Robin, Community Services? Sorry.
Fine. Thank you, Bill. The Community Services Committee has not met in the intervening timeframe since the last town board meeting. I do have a few quick updates from our Parks and Recreation Department heads. From our Recreation Department, fall registration is concluding, so please do join us for exciting offerings as we close out the last of our fall programs. School break programs, cornhole, volleyball, dog training, and much more await. Register early to secure your spot. Programs are being added regularly, so please continue to check back for even more fantastic opportunities. The site at which you can find us is www.townofbrighton.org/rec, R-E-C. You're invited to a new program in the town of Brighton. That is Wednesday Lunches Out and About. We're going to be highlighting some of our wonderful culinary spots within the town. The first of that is on Wednesday, November 16th at 11 a.m. at Jay's Diner. You can call to register at 585-784-5260, extension 0. And you would simply order off the menu and pay individually for your lunch, but you would be in communion with others from the community, so please do join us. I'd like to highlight that our Brighton Farmers Market extended winter season is ongoing through December 18th. That is on Sundays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Brighton High School parking lot, 1150 South Winton Road. Some programs that we have starting soon are the December recess camp, of course, line dancing, volleyball, dog training, home alone safety, horseback riding, and of course, so much more. From our Parks Department, park staff are extremely busy with park and facility maintenance tasks, especially on the trails this time of year. You might have seen us out trimming back trees. Staff are continuing to work on multiple outdoor facility projects while the weather is still cooperating with us. All athletic fields have been aerated and overseeded. Seasonal bathrooms were closed for the winter season on November 1st, which would probably explain our enduring bout of good weather. All fire alarm inspections and annual maintenance of lodge heating systems have been completed. Wanted to highlight some upcoming events. This Friday, November 11th at 2 p.m. will be our Town of Brighton Veterans Day ceremony. That will be at the Veterans Memorial at Buckland Park, 1341 West Fall Road.
And actually, Robin, if I could stop you there, we are looking at a weather forecast that is calling for very heavy rain. The remnants of Hurricane Nicole are projected to come up the East Coast, and they're talking about as much as 3 inches of rain or more on Friday. So we are going to be moving our Veterans Day ceremony indoors here to the main front lobby of Town Hall, which has that wonderful patriotic facade.
Wonderful.
So we're going to get everybody in out of what is really looking like a very, very inclement weather day.
Wise decision. And then, in addition to that, we have the Brighton Symphony Orchestra Fall Concert, which will be on Sunday, November 13th at 3 p.m. That will be at Temple Brith Kodesh in the Wolk Family Auditorium, 2131 Elmwood Avenue. This event is sponsored by Brighton Recreation Department and is free admission and open to the public. Donations, however, are gratefully accepted. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be next Wednesday, November 16th at 9:30 a.m. at the Brookside Recreation Center. Please access the Recreation Department through the Winton Road entrance. As always, members of the public are welcomed and invited to attend. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin. Jason, Finance?
Yes, the Finance and Administrative Services Committee met last Tuesday, November 1st. Each of the items that were discussed in committee appear on tonight's agenda and will be discussed in further detail, including the renewal rates for all of the insurance, health insurance, and premiums for those plans that are available to town employees and retirees. Additionally, the committee also discussed a couple of other items. The first was to approve rules of decorum at public meetings. And after discussion and consideration, a draft of the rules were circulated to all board members for our review and commentary to be taken up at a future meeting. And also, we discussed the review and change of the real property tax law exemption limits for senior citizens and people with disabilities. Assessor Pam Post attended our meeting and reviewed options regarding the increase of income limits for this group. There is information regarding of what some other municipalities are doing, as well as what some ideas as to what Pam would recommend. Because of the nature and the inability to really forecast the effect on our town finances in raising these limits, the committee decided to table this for future discussion. So it's going to remain on our agenda for further discussion and review. Our next meeting will take place next Tuesday, November 15th. We will meet at 3:30 in the afternoon here in the auditorium at Town Hall, and the public is invited to attend.
Thanks, Jason. Public Safety, Chris?
Thanks, Bill. The Public Safety Committee met last week, Tuesday, November the 1st. We had reports from various departments, including ambulance, which reported that there were 830 requests for service during the month of October, and that reflects an increase year-to-date of 16.23% from last year, from 2021, and 20.24% from this month last year. So we have seen escalating requests for services. There were 64 calls for mutual aid outside the district as well. The mental health first aid instructor training has been completed by the ambulance corps, and training schedules are being developed where they're going to share that expertise with neighboring agencies and the public. The Brighton Fire Department reported that there were 2,100 calls year-to-date. They had an open house on October the 16th, which was well attended, and they're engaged in planning for the 2023 PGA Championship at Oak Hill, where they will be providing apparatus and personnel in concert with the Pittsford Fire Department for the event. They have one career recruit graduating on November the 11th, and 4 volunteer recruits graduating on November 30th. The Department of Public Works reported that they were finishing up their last paving project on Oakdale Lane, and that they're well into the leaf collection season, and additional crews have been maintaining activities throughout the town. The police department reported on their calls for service, and also on the October 29th prescription medicine take-back, which had 114 cars and 270 pounds of product collected, at which the Brighton Explorer Post assisted. The Henrietta Fire Department reported on their services in general, but also in West Brighton, they've responded year-to-date to 677 calls and 83 calls in West Brighton in October. They have new career firefighter graduates on November 11th as well, which will bring them back to full staff. And they did report that EMS coverage continues to be an issue throughout the county, and the fire department, both fire departments are being called upon regularly to provide EMS services. We discussed the RG&E Winton Road gas main replacement project, which is now into the milling and filling, or milling and final paving stage right now, and they hope to complete it this season. I think they're well underway. Those of you who've been driving on Winton Road know that it's ready for the final coat. Do you know when that actually starts, Mike? I know the equipment's out.
We spoke with the project manager. They intend to start paving on Monday, weather permitting. The weather doesn't look real good right now, but that's their goal right now, is to get started on Monday.
That's great. We discussed a request by a resident on Hemingway for temporary speed humps along the road, which has been a cut-through street. The police department has had traffic enforcement targeted on that street, as well as that street has long been on the special attention list. It is too late in the season to really consider speed humps, as they would obstruct our snow plows, but we will continue to discuss this in the spring. Also, once the spring arrives, the police department will have their motorcycle unit for vehicle speed enforcement, which can also spend time over on Hemingway. Pedestrian and turn signal issues have been addressed to the New York State Department of Transportation for Westfall, Winton, Monroe, and Edgewood, Torrington, and Allens Creek roads, and we're waiting on the New York State Department of Transportation's response. We also discussed that Governor Hochul signed legislation permitting Brighton, as well as other municipalities, to reduce speed limits to 25 miles an hour on town-owned streets. This is also being discussed at Public Works as well. We are awaiting a formal study by a traffic engineer, and the council will also assist us in that analysis. And the police department did advise that if all streets in the town, all the town-owned streets were at 25 miles an hour, that might actually assist in their enforcement by making it easier for them to patrol. The next meeting will be December 13th, Tuesday at 0800 hours, and the public is invited.
Thanks very much, Chris. Finally, Public Works. Christine.
Yes, Public Works met also on November 1st. In the meeting, we discussed, we had a presentation with the formal application for incentive zoning from Quickly's. They presented an application that includes a hardscape public space at the intersection of Monroe and Elmwood Avenues. A light pole with banners is proposed as the focal point of the hardscape area, and members of the Public Works Committee suggested that the applicant consider a harp light, symbolic of the town of Brighton, in place of the proposed fixture. The applicant was absolutely willing to consider that. The application also includes bicycle racks, an EV charging station, and a building and canopy with a hip roof configuration. The proposed amenity addresses the town's stated desire to bring buildings to the street, as outlined in the comprehensive plan, and also to enhance the profile of 12 Corners. The use of modern design elements such as hardscape, public area, and bike racks are intended to create a sense of community space that supports walkable and bikeable objectives. And the proposed development is consistent with the Town of Brighton Master Plan Envision Brighton 2028. An additional amenity is the construction of 2 EV stations in the southwest corner of the site. Locating the building to the front of the site requires multiple area variances, and the applicant is seeking relief from these variances through incentive zoning. The applicant is also seeking incentives to allow a convenience store with gas, 2 additional signs, and reduced parking requirements. The applicant will be requesting that the town board at the meeting tonight that we file and receive the incentive zoning application and deem the application worthy of further consideration, so that it's on the agenda for a little later. Regarding the Winter Farmers Market, bids were received on October 27th, and the town staff are currently reviewing the bids. Results will be presented at the November 15th FASC meeting. And as a follow-on to the public safety meeting, Public Works also considered the Assembly bill, the new legislation that enables communities to reduce speed limits to 25 miles per hour. The bill requires that the reduced speed limit is in accordance with engineering considerations and factors for speed limits as set forth in the manual and specifications for a uniform system of traffic control devices, and certified by a licensed professional engineer who specializes in traffic operations. So town staff will contact a licensed professional engineer who specializes in traffic operations to obtain a cost proposal to certify that the reduced speed limit is in accordance with the MUTCD requirements. So we're moving that forward at a steady 25-mile-an-hour pace, I think. So we considered no parking on Currywood Circle again. However, the town has not received subsequent support from residents regarding the installation of permanent no parking signs in the circle, so the item will be removed from the agenda. And lastly, the committee reviewed the following tree council recommendations, and we're in agreement with removal and replacement as recommended by the Tree Council. And those trees are a Norway maple at 85 Poplar Way, a Norway maple at 151 Hampshire Drive. Forgive me, the maple at Poplar Way, the recommendation is to remove and replace. At 151 Hampshire Drive, the recommendation is to remove and replace at an alternate site. A Norway maple at 2881 Elmwood Avenue, property address, but the maple itself is on Hampshire, and the recommendation is to remove the northern tree trunk. It's a very large tree. Only a portion of it is at risk at this point. And at 175 and 185 Alamo Drive, silver maples at each address, the recommendation is to remove and replace those. That was all that was addressed. The next meeting of the Public Works Committee will be December 6th at 9 in the morning.
Thank you, Christine. Moving on to new business. Jason, reading and approval of claims.
Yes, yesterday I reviewed claims totaling $293,115.81. Notable claims include the Villager Construction in the amount of $11,086.40, representing payment for the paver rental and milling of Wyatt Drive and Oakdale Drive. Also to Rochester Asphalt Materials in the amount of $22,786.23, representing payment for asphalt to pave Wyatt Drive and for patching. Also to the Monroe County Director of Finance in the amount of $39,585.20. $571.64, representing payment for 2022 striping program and 2022 Stormwater Coalition dues. Also to the Henrietta Fire District, in the amount of $11,678, representing payment for the 2022 pilot and mitigation payment for the MCC Sports Center. And finally, to D&W Diesel, in the amount of $6,810.73, representing payment for parts to repair the sweeper in the Highway Department. The claims all appear to be in order, and I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on those? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Jason, as you mentioned, there's now a series of resolutions relating to healthcare and related matters, and I'm just going to ask you to go through each of them one by one
Okay.
and
So the
take each of those motions.
Okay, the first matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Excelis BCBS for the provision of dental benefits for 2023. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Those plans are self-funded by eligible employees and retirees. Any discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye.
And the next one seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute a renewal agreement with MVP Healthcare for health insurance plans for 2023 and approve change to health savings account contribution policy. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
This covers our primary employee health insurance program as well as under 65 retirees. Paula, do you want to discuss these at all? Mostly their programs are the same, although there's been a slight change in the HSA.
Yep. So the insurance plans for next year are unchanged. We're offering the 3 plans that we have traditionally been offering. We saw an increase of about 7.5% in premiums for those 3 plans starting in 2023 through our Finger Lakes Municipal Health Insurance Trust. The policy change that we're going to be making on the HSA is we're not increasing or changing the dollars that the town gives to the employees who opt to take the high deductible health plan. What we'll be doing is we will be funding 50% of those dollars in the first pay period of January rather than the 25% that we were doing before. Then we'll take the remaining amount and split that evenly over the next 25 pay periods as we've done before. This will give the employees a little bit extra in January should they run into any big service that they need to be done. They'll have that money to draw on earlier in the year.
Thank you, Paula. And we will also in a moment be considering another revision to establish a hardship advance program where for people who still are in a position where they don't have sufficient funds in their HSA, their health savings account, they can request a hardship advance of the full amount of their yearly HSA contribution from the town. But we'll be considering that separately. But for now, we have a motion seconded on the renewal with MVP for our health insurance for employees and under 65 retirees. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye.
And, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute renewal agreements with Excelis BCBS and MVP Healthcare for Medicare health plans, although, this is Aetna?
Correct.
Yes. I'll retract that. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute renewal agreements with Aetna for Medicare health plans for 2023. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second?
Which does say Aetna.
Right. Thanks for that catch, Jason. We made the change to Aetna last year, saw a significant savings in premium costs, and are renewing that agreement at this time, or we're proposing to do that.
And the increase for our Aetna plan is a little bit less than our MVP. It's just under 7% for our retirees over 65 for 2023.
And again, those, just as is the case for the primary coverage, 7 and 7.5% are significant increases, but particularly that 7.5% is also significantly less than the community average for healthcare premiums, and we continue to show savings for the town and for our taxpayers by being a part of the Finger Lakes Municipal Health Insurance Trust, working in collaboration with other municipalities in the area. We have a motion and a second for the Aetna plan. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye.
And the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute a renewal agreement with Lifetime Benefit Solutions Incorporated for the administration of employee flexible spending accounts for 2023. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second?
And the flexible spending accounts are accounts that employees who are not on the high deductible plan are eligible to maintain. As was said, I thought it was very apropos during the online meeting today for open enrollment. Our advisors reminded us that these flexible spending accounts are nowhere near as flexible as HSAs are for those employees that are on our high deductible plans. One more reason that the high deductible plan may be of some real interest for our employees. But we do have those flexible spending accounts, and we need Lifetime to continue to manage them. So we have a motion seconded, and is there any further discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye.
The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute a renewal agreement for the Teamsters Health Plans for 2023. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second?
Under the terms of our collective bargaining agreement with our employees that are represented by the Teamsters, they are provided with a different health care plan, but it's one that's provided through their union, and it's one that we've worked with now for a number of years, and we're proposing the renewal. Any further discussion or anything, Paula, you want to say? Then hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. And finally, one last
Finally,
one.
yes.
Jason.
The next matter seeks to adopt the proposed health savings account hardship advance contribution request policy. I move we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second?
Again, as I mentioned a moment ago, we've made a couple of changes to our health savings account contribution plan. Although the dollar amounts are the same, we're increasing the contribution made with the first payroll period to 50% of the annual level, and going even beyond that. If an employee or an under 65 retiree with a high deductible plan and an HSA doesn't have enough in their account to cover the cost of needed health care at the beginning of the year, they can apply for a hardship advance. And we, again, one of the things we're doing to encourage our employees to look very carefully at the high deductible plans, which in many cases clearly provide savings to employees between the fact that they don't have to contribute a portion of the premiums, as well as the significant HSA contribution the town makes. So we have that motion and second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Robin, if you'd do the next one, please.
Certainly. The next item seeks to approve a budget amendment transferring $800 from the Information Technology Department's telephone services account to the maintenance/repair services account for ongoing software support of the phone system. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Any discussion on that? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Chris?
Bill, the next item is to approve the disposition of a LOSAP volunteer firefighter pension. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
OSAP being a level of service award program, a program that volunteer firefighters, in this case volunteer firefighters from the West Brighton Fire Department had. Ken, anything you want to add about this one?
Only to note that this does not have anything to do with the liquidation of the LOSAP. This actually dates back to a prior member who died and a payment out to that member's heirs.
Thanks. We have that motion seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Christine?
Yes, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with Precise MRM LLC in an amount not to exceed $17,014 for the purchase of salt and plow monitoring equipment. That's subtotal is $13,654, and an annual subscription charge of $3,360, and authorize the Finance Department to make any necessary budget changes. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Mike, you've attached a great letter with a lot of backup material about why you're asking to do this. Tell us a little bit.
Well, I don't want to take up all your time tonight, Supervisor, but so right now when we load our trucks, we load them with a front loader, and we count for our salt based on how many buckets of salt we put in each truck. Not a very accurate method. Each loader operator does it differently, loads the bucket differently. We don't believe that accounting for salt has been very accurate. This software will allow us to make more precise accounting of the use of our salt. It will also allow us to manage the distribution of our salt. Where we might be putting salt down doubly in some instances, we'll be able to note that and be able to make adjustments. I do believe in the end this will allow us to save salt and also reduce our costs.
Thanks, Mike. Christine, did you have a? Oh, I thought you had a.
No, only, I would only add that I think this is a brilliant addition to the overall operation. It makes sense.
No, it does make a lot of sense. It does make us much more accountable.
Any further discussion? The only thing I would add is obviously we're in some important watersheds here, and anything that allows us to be more precise and in all likelihood reduce the amount of salt that we put on our roads. We already use the sensible salting system, which is intended to really focus salting on those areas like curves, like hills, intersections where salt is most needed, but anything we can do even above and beyond that to reduce the amount of salt that we're putting into the environment without increasing risk to our drivers is a good thing. So thanks for hunting this out and bringing it to us. Anything else? Any other comments? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFazio.
Aye.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Christine, why don't you handle this next one as well?
Yes, the next matter seeks to determine that the incentive zoning proposal by 1950-1966 Monroe Avenue LLC for the redevelopment of the southeast corner of Monroe and Elmwood Avenues is worthy of further consideration and that it be referred to the planning board. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Ken, if you could just walk through where this is, what this project is, and where it fits into the process.
Sure. Probably about a year or more ago, the company that operates Quickly's approached the town planning board with an idea to renovate and rehabilitate the corner of Monroe and Elmwood where the mobile station currently sits. And the proposal originally was for them to effectively replace the pumps in the front and upgrade the building that exists on that property and consolidate 2 lots to give them a little additional parking space for their operations. The planning board, while interested in upgrading always the face of Monroe Avenue, suggested to the developer that it would be a far better idea if they were able to flip things around in keeping with concepts of the Monroe Avenue streetscape and provide some more attractive, pedestrian-friendly frontage, move the building forward and the pumps backwards so that the pumps weren't right out on the corner, that the pumps would be behind the building. The developer was very receptive to that, but that configuration presents some daunting challenges relative to setbacks and code provisions, which would make it difficult without getting a significant number of variances to place the building forward and to have those streetscape improvements as conceived. So the developer then undertook an effort to put together what is now before you, an incentive zoning proposal to effectively provide the amenity of improving the streetscape, providing that hardscape, providing that look that we're looking for, which is much more in keeping with the vision that this community has had for Monroe Avenue, and reconfiguring the property so that the building would be in the front and the pumps would be in the back, and asking for incentives, which are effectively the area variances that they would otherwise need. There's very detailed plans that I know you've already reviewed in your Public Works Committee that shows what those plans, at least preliminarily, would look like, what that hardscape in the front on the corner of Monroe and Elmwood would look like, and together with what the store itself and the pumps area would look like. Also, the proposal is to install for the first time some EV charging stations in the 12 Corners area, which is something that we don't have now. So all of that is what is before you. And under our incentive zoning provisions of the Town Code, Chapter 209, right now you're not being asked to, give a full green light to this project, but just to say, this is very interesting and worthy of further consideration. Let's send it over back to the planning board, because really that's where the project originated, and let's get their input and their thoughts as to what this new design looks like, whether the project amenities make sense, whether the project incentives that they ask for balance out against those amenities as well. So that's what you would be doing if you pass this resolution, is saying it's worthy of further consideration and then referring it to the planning board for its further review. If the planning board does, then, the planning board must report back to you one way or another, and then you'll have sort of a second chance to look at the proposal with planning board's comments and make whatever additional suggestions or comments you might have for the developer, and then only at that time would you then set a public hearing to consider this incentive zoning proposal, and then, of course, we go through the public hearing process on this project. So that's sort of where we are.
Thanks, Ken. Certainly indicative of the high level of review that incentive zoning projects receive from various town boards and the opportunity to advance other objectives. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion, any questions, any comments on that? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Finally, Robin.
Certainly. The next matter seeks to set a public hearing for December 14th, 2022 for the removal of a box elder at 160 Chelmsford Road and a silver maple at 1393 Clover Street on Rowland Parkway. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the town attorney.
Second.
Any discussion? We heard briefly about those earlier during the committee report. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Matters of supervisor. First, the September 2022 expense and revenue reports, and since that ends a quarter, the third quarter financial report. Paula.
Okay. Revenues. We talked in depth last report on the revenues and mostly the sales tax and the mortgage tax. We haven't seen any more income on either of those two. We'll get another sales tax payment mid-November this month, and mortgage tax isn't due until December. But sales tax, as you know, has been trending strongly, a little bit above budget. Mortgage tax was at about 50%, and we're going to be keeping an especially sharp eye on what comes in December because of the impact the increasing rates have for mortgage rates. The Fed keeps raising, so we're just going to keep an eye on that one. Some good news is our other revenues. We've got department revenues are coming in at 80%, and remember we're at 75% of our budget right now. So we're seeing our departmental revenues come up. They're at 80%. Licenses and permit are at 82%. And fines and sales are at 90%. And interest is doing extremely well. I guess that's kind of the good side of interest rates going up. And interest rates so far is at 147% of what we budgeted. It's not a huge number, but you know, it's going to help in the areas where we may potentially fall short. Expenditures, regular salaries are running just under 75% directly on budget, which is where we would expect to be. Along with those, the fringes are also running and trending the same. Overtime is doing quite well. The police department is at 64% of their budget, and the highway is at 58% of their budget. But the highway has yet for the snow to fly and for the boys to get out plowing and spreading salt. So we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully we don't get any terrible, awful, horrible weather before year end. Our budget for benefits are also on trend. We've made 10 payments of 12 for our health insurance benefits for both active and our retirees. We usually are about a month ahead, so right around 83%, and we're trending at about 80%. So again, we're doing well in that area. New York State retirement is budgeted quite tightly, and we are always on trend with that. So that's going to be paid December 15th as the payment. We just received our invoice, so I'll report back on that as well when we get the numbers ready for those. So exclusive of the salaries and fringe benefits, we are looking at equipment, supplies and contractual, utility expense, and commercial insurances. I talked about the commercial expenses last time. We are on budget. We won't be making any more payments on our commercial insurance until the beginning of next year because of how our contracts run. They run from June 1 to May 31st, so we are paid from June 1 currently all the way through December 31st for the current year. Equipment capital outlay, we are well within tolerance of budget, and we still are seeing a little bit heavier encumbrances, about 26%. Usually this year, we're running maybe very, very low 20s or high teens, again, because items that we've ordered are on our purchase orders, we've received them, but because we're seeing delays in receiving items that we've ordered, we're going to see those encumbrances probably stay higher than normal. It's not alarming. If we don't receive delivery, those encumbrances would roll into 2023, and the money would be available at that time to fund those purchases. Supplies and contractual expenses are either spent or encumbered at 87%. Again, that's not over our 75%, because what we've actually paid for, sent the cash out the door for, is 58%. So again, running below budget on that. But we have items that we intend to spend locked up on our PO, and so we'll get, that 87 is going to be mostly through the end of this year. So we're trending well on that. Utilities, back to contractual expenses, the two items I'm keeping my eye on right now is going to be our fuel, diesel and gasoline. Those two items are running over budget. It's difficult. We have escalation clauses in our fuel, so when the fuel prices go up, obviously we're going to pay more. So we're keeping our eyes on that one. Utility expenses are also just over budget. We're at 79% of our total budget. Again, benchmark is 75. We're at 79. So we're keeping our eyes on that as well. We're also seeing the impact of higher rates in our utilities. The difference that we've got is our debt service. Our debt service, of course, is always on budget, because we know exactly what our payments are going to be, and we plan accordingly for the budget year. So in conclusion, we're going to be keeping our eyes on a couple areas. Fuel is one, utilities is one, and I'm hoping that our mortgage tax will finish on budget, if not stronger. So that's where we are for the third quarter.
Thanks very much, Paula. As you can tell, an awful lot of detail goes into the work of the finance department. We appreciate it. The Cliff Notes version of that really was that, for the most part, our expenses are running below budgeted levels, while our revenues are running generally above budgeted levels. That's a good way to proceed.
It's how we would like it to be, but we aren't going to know, as I said, until year end. The fuel is, we're just going to, it bears
wild
watching.
Card, overtime is a wild card.
Fuel and overtime, we don't have any control. If we're out there plowing the snow, we got to keep the roads clear for our residents, so.
Can I have a motion to receive and file the expense and revenue report through September 30th, 2022, please?
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DePonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer?
Aye. Couple other matters. Leaves. Leaf pickup is continuing. Couple things that the Highway Department is doing to speed up bulk leaf pickup. First, they've begun Saturday overtime work. This is something they've done for the last several years. It's budgeted, but it helps us, make our Highway Department make their way through the town a little bit faster. They worked last Saturday. They're going to be working this Saturday. Hopefully the rain will have abated by then. And the Saturday after that, probably as well. Yeah. So that's one thing they've done. The other thing they've done right now, temporarily, they have stopped the separate containerized pickup so that more crews can be devoted, more time, person hours can be devoted to that bulk pickup. The containerized crews have been through the town a couple of times already. And of course, the bulk leaf collection is very much more time consuming. It's really important. Again, I'm going to remind everybody of this, of our guidelines to help the Highway Department pick those leaves up quickly, safely, and efficiently. Number one, in fact, number 1, 2, and 3, do not pile your leaves in the street. Let me say it again. To my neighbors, to all of our neighbors, we see it. Do not pile your leaves in the street. Why? 1, they are a danger to pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. This past weekend, I'm not going to say where it was, but I saw a driver swerve so that he could drive through a big leaf pile that was in the street. I don't know if he thought that would be fun. I imagine he didn't think about the fact that young children are often attracted to leaf piles. Imagine if there had been children playing in that leaf pile as I watched him purposefully swerve into that leaf pile. Please don't put your leaves in the street. Let me give you another reason. We talked about the remnants of Hurricane Nicole coming up the coast this coming week. One of the things that putting your leaf piles in the street does is they can clog up storm drains, they can cause neighborhood flooding, and that in and of itself not only becomes a safety hazard, but none of us want to see that in our neighborhoods. So please, tomorrow's going to be a beautiful day. Those of you that have put your leaves, or maybe your landscape company, put the leaves in the street. And if you got a landscape company, please let them know. It's not where they go. They go in the tree lawn, if you have a sidewalk, between the sidewalk and the street, or right on the lawn adjacent to the street, but not in the street. So take the time tomorrow. It's going to be a beautiful, warm, sunny day. Rake those leaves back into your lawn. That will help us make sure that you're not going to contribute to neighborhood flooding. Clean out a storm drain. If you've got a storm drain in your front yard, a lot of us do, take a look at it now while it's dry. Make sure that that doesn't have debris in it already, so it'll drain well. If you're wondering where our leaf crews are, go to our town's webpage. There's a map. Click on the yard debris and leaf collection link. That will tell you where our crews are going to be working the next couple days. I can give you the short version. They're in East Brighton. They're going to be working in East Brighton tomorrow, Friday, probably the weekend. And then that will complete their first pass through town, and then they'll go back to West Brighton to start their second pass through town. Most of us have finished mowing our lawns for the season, but just a reminder, no grass clippings will be picked up. No plastic bags. You can still containerize your leaves. That will obviously reduce the risk of clogging storm drains. It's a little less messy in the neighborhood. They won't blow around. But if you do that, you can't put them in plastic bags. You can put them in refuse containers. You can put them in those big brown paper bags, but not plastic bags. And if you do want to mow them, you can do that, or just leave them on your lawn. They become sort of a natural mulch and help replenish the nutrients in your lawn. Election day, of course, was yesterday. Thank you to the election inspectors who work an incredibly long day. It winds up being about a 17-hour day. Kudos to all of you. I had the chance to talk to a lot of them. And really appreciate the work that they do. Thank you to everybody that went out and voted, whether you voted yesterday or whether you did early voting. And congratulations to the people who were successful. But really thanks to everybody that enters the ring, as that famous Teddy Roosevelt quote about the person who enters the arena. Those of you that ran for office, you entered the arena. There are no losers. You entered the arena. You suffered those slings and arrows. We do congratulate the winners, but we do recognize the effort of those others. We talked a little bit about Winton Road again. This is, of course, the final stage of that natural gas pipeline project that RG&E's contractor has been working on. Mike, I know Mike Guyon, our Commissioner of Public Works, has been a part of regular Zoom conferences with the contractor and also with the school district. I know this last round of work, and no doubt this last paving, it is a challenge because it's right there in front of the school, but it's work that is important to be done so that this project can really be completed this construction season. So one more week of paving activities, weather permitting, and the project should be completed, and that is good news. Finally, again, as I mentioned before, because of the expected heavy rains, we're going to be moving our annual Veterans Day observance from the Brighton Veterans Memorial to the lobby here at Town Hall, where we have that beautiful facade. Take a look at that on your way out if you haven't thought about it in a while. It really is a great monument to people who have served, just as Veterans Day itself is. And you know, I've always thought that Veterans Day, and of course right in the same week as Election Day, there's something very fitting, because it is our veterans that have served our country to make sure that we can have free elections with people participating in the democratic process. I would also note that this year we will be recognizing Monroe County Veterans Service, and specifically Nick Stefanovich. Nick participates in all of our Veterans and Memorial Day ceremonies, but more importantly than that, Nick is really the person who manages the wide range of services that Monroe County provides to veterans. He is, of course, a veteran himself and has provided some truly moving personal accounts of his own service for our country, and we're grateful for that. In addition, we will have another veteran at the ceremony. Noted local saxophonist Jimmy Highsmith will be performing America the Beautiful as part of the ceremony. So please come out here at Town Hall, 2 o'clock this Friday, Veterans Day. That's all that I have. Matters of the Town Attorney. Ken? Matters of the Town Clerk?
Nothing this evening.
Matters of the Board? Then can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment of a particular person?
So moved. Second.
I heard the motion from Chris and the second from Robin. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeFonzio?
Aye.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Carrano?
Aye.
Supervisor Maley?
Aye. Thank you, Heather and Allie. We appreciate your signing at every one of our meetings. I do not anticipate that we will be coming back out into public session after the executive session. I do want to remind everybody that our next town board meeting will be Tuesday night, November 22nd at 7 p.m. Of course, that next night, Wednesday, is Thanksgiving Eve, so we're moving the meeting to Tuesday, November 22nd. Have a great evening, everybody.